This news program is proudly brought to you by Smart Start Breakfast Biscuits and Now Biscuits.
Northwest MP Lohia Boy Samuel and Fabian Hera to stand trial. Family of missing Senior Constable Nelson Kalimda want answers. Tomoriesa speaks out on the conflict on Kiriwina Island. Good evening, this is National EMTV News. I'm Godwin Eki. Thank you for joining us. The Waigani Committal Court has ruled on the murder case for Mosby Northwest Lohia Boy Samuel and Fabian Hera, who were both charged for murder under Section 300 of the Criminal Code Act, today in Port Moresby. Today's mention follows the suspension of evidence in August 31st.
A crowded scene at the Waigani Committal Court this morning. Presiding over the matter was Magistrate Paul Purini. Magistrate Ni, after an assessment of all the evidence of the case, said sufficient evidence was gathered on both the defendants, Fabian Hera and lawyer boy Samuel. Magistrate Ni read the ruling that Fabian Hera is charged with murder. Evidence is sufficient to commit defendant Fabian Hera for the charge of murder under Section 300, subsection 1A of the Criminal Code Act. Order number 2 read that efficient submission to commit defendant, lawyer boy Samuel, for the charge of murder under Section 300, subsection 1A of the Criminal Code Act, consistent to Section 7, subsection 1C and E of the Criminal Code Act. Bail has been extended for both the defendants. The matter has been extended to next week, Monday, the 31st of October 2022 at 9:30 a.m. for Section 96 statements under the District Court Act. Both were at the scene at the Fusion restaurant in Port Moresby when the shooting of Robert Jerry, their associate, occurred earlier this year. After the court's dismissal, the MP, lawyer boy Samuel, walked out with a tight escort. People gathered in anticipation to witness as the MP exits the committal court vicinity. Grace Papiali, National EMTV News.
Family members of missing Senior Constable Nelson Kalimda, who went missing in Hela Province whilst on duty, wants answers from the police hierarchy. Nelson Kalimda was among 5 officers who went to Hela Province to provide security during the grade 12 and 10 examinations.
It's been 1 week since 47-year-old Constable Nelson Kalimda from Angaram district in East Sepik Province went missing in Hela Province. According to his family spokesperson and also a police officer, Constable Jonah Irum, Kalimda went along with 5 other police officers to provide security for the grade 12s and 10s national examinations when he was reported missing last Thursday, the 20th of October. Constable Irum said since the day he was reported missing, the family has been waiting for answers from the police hierarchy. To date, no reports have been given to the family. Irum said they want Constable Kalimda to return home alive, safe and sound.
We appeal to the leaders up in Hela Province to work together, work with the policemen on the ground, work with his command up there in Hela Province and the police hierarchy to make sure that the servicemen, Nelson is no ordinary person. He's a serving officer. He's a serving serviceman. Must be returned to his family, alive, safe, and sound.
Nelson Kalimda's wife, Hilda, said the last time she got a call from her husband was on Thursday, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, before he went missing. Hilda said her 2 sons, Justin and Bertrand Kilamda, want their father home and is appealing to the police, the people of Hela Province, and responsible authorities to help send their father home to them.
Play like in Papa Blumi plan. I'm not go work nothing. Government salary mem go. So I must come back and lo me plan. Suppose all see life belong and more at me play like looking mem tas all. Because something me play like looking Papa Blumi plan back.
Me too. Can't send me come up and affect me to side to school. Well, I go so many work plan. Must come back and safe.
Constable Jonah Irum said police on ground in Hela province managed to inform the Prime Minister and the Governor for Hela about the situation when PMRP was in the province, but until today nothing has been done to inform the family.
The police officers' colleagues actually mentioned and reported the incident to the good Prime Minister and the Governor of the province, but to date we have not heard any stories.
Senior Constable Nelson Kalimda is with the Special Service Division, the 04 of the Police Department, based in Port Moresby. Cynthia Maku, National EMTV News.
Kiriwina Goodenough MP Douglas Tomuriesa has spoken out on the conflict on Kiriwina Island that has left 30 people dead and many injured. In an exclusive interview with EMTV News, the local member stated that it is not a tribal conflict, but rather a fight between two villages as a result of a local village soccer match 5 weeks ago.
The conflict on Kiriwina has made headlines over the past 2 days, and local MP Douglas Tomuriesa has spoken out on the incident. Speaking with EMTV News via mobile from the conflict area, Tomuriesa stated that the issue started 5 weeks ago between two villages on Kiriwina Island when members of the losing team started a fight with the winners. This resulted in spectators trying to stop the melee when supporters of the losing team slashed two men with bush knives, leaving them dead.
They went and uprooted all their food crops and destroyed their new seeds that they planted. And back home people take great pride in gardening, especially on the Trobriand Islands. And when the yams were destroyed, the yam gardens were destroyed, and also a lot of our people depend on their gardens for survival. And so the people retaliated.
The MP went on to reveal that he, along with his administration, sorted the issue out when they met with both villages and conducted a traditional peace ceremony.
We stood in with the leaders and we tried to sort it out, and we thought we sorted out the issue. And in fact, it was sorted out at the time when we did some, exchange and customary obligations and so and so. And we thought we sorted it out. Then over the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, over the weekend, some of the people who were affected, the village where the two men died, decided to destroy the food gardens of the other village.
The local MP said that there are only 2 policemen on ground in Losuya, with 5 furnished, uninhabited, high covenant police houses, yet police manpower is needed to control the situation on ground. Over the weekend, dissatisfied and aggrieved spectators went to the village where the soccer match was held and destroyed the food gardens, sparking the situation out of control.
As of yesterday evening, there were 22. There was 22 around 2 p.m. Yesterday afternoon. But by the time the fight actually stopped or finished, there was confirmed 30 deaths.
The member for Kiriwina Goodenough stated that due to quick response from the police, there are about 18 policemen on ground. Tomuriesa was on location and gave a situational update.
The situation is still very tense, very tense, but quiet. Very tense but quiet, because the people have taken the dead and they've taken them home to bury. And so we are hoping that police will come and do their investigation proper and arrest the perpetrators. What is important is to get to the bottom of the issue and deal with the perpetrators and get them arrested. There's another issue also.
Mr. Tomuriesa thanked the Internal Security Minister, Peter Chamalili Jr., and Milne Bay PPC, Peter Barkey, for their prompt response, and he's appealing to the Police Commissioner David Manning for more police to be sent to Losuya and be stationed there, as there is lack of police manpower on the island. Rocky Iso, National MTV News.
The Minister for International Trade and Investment, Richard Maru, on behalf of the national government, has welcomed the chairman of the Japan Development Institute, Dr. Shoiki Kobayashi, an expert for 40 years in the development of special economic zones in developing countries in the world. The welcome dinner was held last night at the Hilton Hotel in Port Moresby.
The fancy nightlights of the modern construction design of the Hilton Hotel have set a welcoming mode for the invited partners of the Ministry and Department of International Trade and Investment, as traditional dancing graced the presence of the Japanese ambassador to PNG, His Excellency Nobuyuki Watanabe. Welcomed later were the chairman of the Japanese Development Institute, Dr. Soichi Kobayashi, and his associate, accompanied by the ambassador of PNG to Japan, His Excellency Sam Abal, who was the former acting Prime Minister of Papua New Guinea. A warm welcome by Richard Maru, Minister for International Trade and Investment, and Soroi Eoi, Minister for Provincial and Local Level Government Affairs. Minister Maru acknowledged the Japanese associates to PNG and highlighted the plans they have on working in partnership in investing in the Special Economic Zones project in the country.
I want to start by commending the Prime Minister and the Marabe Rosso government and the last government for making the decision to go down this path of Special Economic Zones. Why do I say that? Special Economic Zones have been around for over 40 years. And we are just starting the journey.
Maru added that the government is focused on economic independence and that they will be investing on creating robust job opportunities for thousands of Papua New Guineans.
The Marabe government is not talking about political independence anymore. We are talking about economic independence we've never achieved, and we want to achieve it in our time.
Dr. Kobayashi shared his experience in the development of special economic zone projects, especially in developing countries.
Special economic zone development about 40 years ago. I started working with the World Bank and the ADBs and JICA, but many study on the industrial park and the SEZ, not able to implement, because the special economic zone requires A to Z. Everything we needed to be functional. Power, road, all the infrastructure, communication, and the training. Without if missing one out of A to Z, it doesn't work.
After the brief insight, the Special Economic Zone Board Chairman, Varigini Badira, highlighted the processes that are in place for interested applicants for the Special Economic Zone project. He said that there are 31 steps and criteria the Special Economic Zone Board has established.
Government has given the direction to go downstream. So if you're thinking downstreaming of our natural raw resources in Papua New Guinea, think Special Economic Zone.
The arrival of the Japan Development Institute representatives comes after the recent visit of Minister Maru to Tokyo and the discussions to develop a master plan for the special economic zones in Papua New Guinea. Grace Papiali, National MTV News.
The Minister for International Trade and Investment, Richard Maru, explained the prospects the Japanese Development Institute associates will do in their stay in the country. He made these statements last night at a welcome reception held for the team in Port Moresby.
Minister for International Trade and Investment Richard Maru had emphasized on the Special Economic Zones project journey that will be undertaken by the experts of the Japanese Development Institute.
I said to Dr. Elia, when they travel the country and undertake the individual feasibility studies on the list that we will provide based on interest and what the department and the AZ authority believes are potential AZZs. By the time the report is finished, we expect the report to say which one should we kick off with first.
In supporting the statements of Minister Maru, Dr. Shiochi Kobayashi affirmed that problems will arise and that will be a challenge that they will undertake and assess in order to achieve their aims in the Special Economic Zone Master Plan.
It's a not so easy project. Building the factory, building power plant, those are one simple, easy one. But this is complex, covering everything, physical aspect, the administration, the government regulation, the law, the land acquisition, all those in the package.
Grace Papiali, National EMTV News.
National EMTV News continues after the break. Stay with us. You're watching National EMTV News. A local mine continues to uphold one of its commitments for employment in terms of promoting equal employment and promotion opportunities for all staff. Ramoniko Management Limited also continues to recruit local men and women from the surrounding and project impact communities to join those who have worked with the company for several years now.
Papua New Guinea's nickel and cobalt mine operates from 3 locations: the Kurumbukari mine, the Basamuk refinery at Rye Coast, and the head office of Ramoniko Management Limited in Madane. As part of its corporate responsibility, the Health, Safety and Environment Department of Basamuk Refinery is going through a hiring process for its emergency response team, of which local men and women recruited from surrounding impact communities are expected to start work this week. Deputy General Manager, Health, Safety and Environment Paul Tomo Thompson spoke of the recruiting process.
They will train here under our trainer and our supervisors, probably 6 months, maybe a bit more, and then we'll bring in external trainers, as the company has done before, to give them a certificate 3 in mines rescue. And that is, it's no easy certificate to obtain, but I'm sure, under the guidance of our team, that they'll achieve that.
Thompson said 4 trainees have been promoted into officer positions and all are local young men.
We're promoting people into higher roles, so 4 of the trainees are going into officer position and they're all local young men. One of the officers is moving into a supervisory role. He's been here for a number of years and meets all the criteria.
The young men and women are being recruited have no skills and no knowledge of the job. Many of those being recruited have only grade 8 education, but as part of its corporate responsibility, Ramoniko is committed to training the local people.
We'll be bringing in half a dozen new trainees, young men and women from the local villages. Again, these young men and women will have no skills, no knowledge of the job, but the requirement for us is that they have grade 8 education, but we're looking for initiative, we're looking for fitness, we're looking for people who are willing to take on new challenges.
Ramoniko Mining Limited hopes that the skills that young local men and women learn will be an asset that they take with them through their careers to be future supervisors, trainers and even superintendents of the company. Rocky Iso, National EMTV News.
BSP is in support of the central bank's policy stance to tighten its monetary policy to address inflation throughout the country. BSP states that the timing is appropriate to make the necessary policy adjustments due to developments in the domestic and global economy.
The feed-through of the high level of global inflation to domestic prices has resulted in an Consumer Price Index of 5.5% in the June quarter of 2022. This has affected many businesses and individuals by the increasing cost of business and increased cost of living at the end of the June quarter, and it remains so until now and will continue till the end of the year. The central bank is forecasting 6.0% inflation for the year 2022. BP&G had forecast inflationary pressures rising in the second quarter and used its monetary policy instruments to address inflation. The Bank of PNG forecast annual headline inflation to remain elevated in 2022 and to ease over the medium term. The high inflation has also increased costs for businesses and reduced households' purchasing power, thereby affecting people's livelihood. In response to high inflation, the central bank has tightened the stance of monetary policy in July 2022 by increasing the Kina facility rate in 0.25% in July 2022 to 3.25%. The Kina facility rate increase by BP&G had the intended effect of increasing interest rates, which financial institutions would pass on to borrowers, thereby limiting consumption, which ultimately slows down inflation. Deposit rates would also increase, which rewards savers who exercise spending constraints with higher interest paid on their deposits. BSP increased its interest rates effective September 2022 to align to BP&G's monetary policy stance and the Kina facility rate increase. To support its stance, BP&G has progressively increased the cash reserve requirement to 9.0% in September and issued additional central bank bills. BSP has come out in support of this move. On the part of the government, 611 million Kina was provided to fund the temporary relief measures to help cushion the impact of high prices. BSP Group CEO Robin Fleming said it is BSP's view that price stability is a major concern, especially with the persistent inflation seen globally and PNG's reliance on imports. Fleming said, and I quote, "Prudent monetary intervention is needed to contain inflation at acceptable levels given PNG's pipeline of resource projects expected in the medium term, which will substantially boost economic activity." End quote. Furthermore, Mr. Fleming said BSP supports BP&G correctly, calling on the government to sue windfall revenues associated with higher energy prices to retire government debt as an expansionary fiscal policy, which can be in conflict with the tightening monetary policy stance. Rocky Iso, National MTV News.
The Climate Change and Development Authority and stakeholders today validated the country's draft Climate Change Carbon Market Regulations 2022 in Port Moresby. Today's validation workshop saw the draft Carbon Market Regulation 2022 presented to the relevant stakeholders for their reviews and feedback to improve the draft.
Climate Change Development Authority's Measurement Reporting and Verification and National Communication Division Acting General Manager Deborah Sungi during the workshop said PNG plans on implementing to compliance carbon markets under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change Mechanism. She, however, said the country is faced with challenges of the influx of projects that intends to pursue voluntary carbon markets in the absence of regulatory mechanisms. Ms. Sungi said CCDH is tasked to address the authorization approval by way of the development of the regulations.
That its individual participants have, hence there's quite a good interactions that we have in terms of how we can structure and craft this regulation positively to address the issues that surround us in terms of the carbon markets in country.
Sungi said at this stage, CCDH has completed one-on-one consultation with key agencies within the sector of agriculture, forestry and other land use and energy sector. The validation workshop is expected to gain stakeholder support for draft PNG Carbon Markets Management Regulation 2022 and to improve the draft regulation going forward. CCDH aims to complete the regulation before the end of the year. Frederick Tamarua, Acting State Solicitor, highlighted the importance of the Carbon Market Management Regulation.
Within a regulatory framework in which it allows CCDA to provide regulatory control over these activities and also to report accordingly based on international obligations. And I guess that's what we're trying to achieve here, noting that there are existing laws that govern other areas. And it's just trying to ensure that we are aligning them with those laws, aligning them with the Constitution, and ensuring that this regulation is implementable at the end of the day as well. And of course, for the benefit of our people.
Sharon Engnui, National MTV News.
And now looking at the Nest Fund market report, the Kina closed unchanged at $0.2840 US in the interbank market. At Bank South Pacific, your Kina was buying $0.2765 US, $0.4347 Australian dollars, $0.2729 euro, 40.84 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York closed, gold, coffee closing lower, cocoa closed higher, copra closed lower. On the stock market, the Dow Jones, palm oil and crude oil closed lower, copper closed higher. And on the stock market, the Dow Jones, ASX 200 and all ordinaries are trading higher. National EMTV News continues after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back to the news. Number One Super Limited Chairman Reg Monagi today announced the appointment of Number One Super's newest independent trustee director, Philip Sama.
Mr. Monagi said his 20 years of experience serving on several boards and working across the private and public sectors, predominantly in the field of mining, where he has been involved in finding solutions across issues with key resource stakeholders, including government, customary landowners, and mining companies, makes him a valuable member of the board. He said NSL will also draw on his expertise in corporate and strategic management, regulatory and policy administration, and international and domestic investments to further support the growth and success of the fund for the benefit of over 200,000 members going forward. Mr. Sama was appointed for a 3-year term in line with the Bank of PNG prudential standards related to corporate governance for authorized superannuation fund. The Bank of PNG Superannuation Prudential Standards sets out specific requirements for the board, structure and responsibilities, including investment and risk management of the fund and its officers, to ensure that Number One Super is prudently managed and that informed and impartial decisions are made in the best interest of its members. Esther Gane, National EMTV News.
World Polio Day was observed yesterday with a reminder to everyone of the importance of increasing childhood immunization to prevent polio and other serious diseases across Papua New Guinea. This year's World Polio Day theme is focused on a healthier future for children by ensuring that children are fully immunized from birth through to early childhood. They will be well placed to reach their full developmental potential.
According to the Australian High Commission to PNG, polio can cause death or result in lifelong disability. It is not curable, but can be easily prevented through vaccination. A child who is fully immunized for polio will be protected for life from this debilitating disease. Julian Won contracted polio at a very young age, and it has permanently affected the use of his legs. One said he was infected with the polio virus when he was 1 year old back in the 1970s, when the health facilities were not equipped with polio vaccine. He said polio has no cure. He did not receive the polio vaccine when he was a child, which resulted in his permanent disability that has limited him from doing everyday tasks. One said it was a challenge growing up and living with a polio-inflicted disability. He is now an advocate for polio vaccines and is keen to support the delivery of PNG's childhood immunization program. One is encouraging all mothers to bring their babies to the nearest health facility to be vaccinated so they can get their polio vaccine at an early age. The Accelerated Immunization and Health System Strengthening Program has increased vaccination across 12 provinces through provincial health authorities and implementation service providers. Since it commenced in 2019, over 295,700 doses of polio vaccines have been administered to infants under 1 year old. It is an initiative of the Government of Papua New Guinea and funded by the governments of Australia and New Zealand and Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance. Cynthia Maku, National EMTV News.
Jiwaka Provincial Health Authority is aiming to have a highly skilled workforce to improve service delivery. This was recently mentioned by the chairman of Jiwaka Provincial Health Authority Board, John Kumie.
Speaking during the presentation of a check payment to the Pacific Institute of Leadership and Governance by Jiwaka PHA recently, Kumie said he supported the training programs offered.
Basically, we put systems in place, and when the system is in place, they were able to recruit. And we've recruited the number of workforce which CEO and the regional manager have said. Now they need to be inducted. Being a new province, we've got a province to manage and look after. We're also managing and looking after a PHA that is only 4 years old. The board needs competent workforce, efficient and productive workforce.
Jiwaka is a newly established province and is growing from strength to strength as its public servants and political leaders are at work. Kumie said improving human resources capacity is a way forward, and trainings by PILAG were appreciated as they were important.
This is basically for the induction, but if the workforce are to be sent to be trained by PILAG, the board, this is an undertaking from the board as chairman. This is an undertaking that I'm going to give that we will train as much PHA staff as possible. So that we have a productive workforce in Jiwaka PHA.
181 staff of Jiwaka PHA are currently undergoing trainings by PILAG. Jim John, National EMTV News.
National EMTV News continues after the break with Trukai Sports. Stay with us.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. Tonga and Wales went head-to-head in the Rugby League World Cup this morning. Tonga won the game with 32 points to 6 at the totally wicked stadium in St. Helens in the United Kingdom.
The Wales proved too strong in the first half. Defense and attack saw them scoring first try in the opening minutes.
Back on the inside. Oh, he's through. Kyle Evans.
With a successful conversion, Wales was leading with 6 points to 0. The Tongans came out strong after that with an easy try on the sideline.
To that left-hand side, trying to create the numbers, and they've got the numbers, and from that scrum play, Daniel...
However, the conversion was unsuccessful. Breaking through the Wales defense, Tongans scored their second try.
Right-hand side, the big burst through again.
This was followed by another try by Tonga in the final minute of the first half, with a successful conversion giving them the lead with 16 points to 6 in the first half.
This is dangerous for Wales, very dangerous for Wales.
In the second half, Tongans were too strong, scoring 3 consecutive tries with successful conversions.
The Welsh out on the edges, all they can try, go back down the middle through Tessie Muir, who scores. He somehow found a way through.
Tongans came out victorious, defeating the Wales 32 points to 6. This is Tongan's second win at the Rugby League World Cup after defeating PNG Kumuls in their first game last week. Esther Gane, Trukai Sports.
Yacht Club's Three Peaks race successfully hosted the event with more than 10 participants. The two events included the Hobbies race as well as the yacht race. The 2022 Three Peaks International winner was Team Mystique. The event starting from the Fairfax Harbour saw more than 10 participants for both the Hobbies race as well as the yacht. General Manager Aaron said the Three Peaks race was first introduced in 1995 and 27 years later it still continues to date.
The race takes place and starts out the front in the harbour and heads over to Manabata, whereby the competitors jump off and swim to the beach. They run up to the first peak and then they come back, swim across board and then sail across to Lolarua and repeat the same process. They finish back here at the Yacht Club and then the grueling run up the Burns Peak is the final or the third peak.
The participants had to swim, sail and run before finishing at the final finish line at the Yacht Club.
We had 10 boats in the end, which is fantastic, with a crew of about 4 to 5, depending on size of vessel. So that's a really good, that gives us about 50-60 entrants without sponsors and anyone else that comes along. Great support also to keep all the competitors safe by St John's Ambulance, Guard Dog Security, and of course the Water Police out in the water keeping everyone safe.
The 2022 winner of the Three Peaks International went to Team Mystique. Other prizes given out were for the fastest male, the fastest female and the fastest boat. All participants of the race were given a hamper each and a group photo taken.
We'll be looking at sponsorship for 2023. We are growing and growing the Three Peaks. It's good, as I said earlier, to get it back after COVID. So we introduced this year at Calcutta thanks to the Game Fishing Club and it was very, very, very successful. A little bit of fun incorporated into the race side of things, but the Calcutta worked extremely well, so we'll be continuing that on with the Hobies next year.
Yacht Club General Manager Aaron Bartz said next year the Yacht Club is looking to host a bigger and better event. And Trukai Sports continues after the break with more stories. Stay with us.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. Oceania Fight Promotions will host its 2022 all-female bout come October 30th in Port Moresby. This will be OFP's first event of the year since their last event in December last year. The fight will consist of 14 fighters and a total of 7 bouts, with the fight to be hosted at the Sejongai's Indoor Stadium. Managing Director Marion Milley said this is the first of its kind for OFP to host a fight for female fighters only.
We have 14 boxers will be performing 7 bouts, and we are so proud to host the first female professional bouts in Papua New Guinea. This will be the first in the Pacific and in Papua New Guinea.
Yesterday, as part of their preparations, 2 of the fighters preparing for the event are Joycelyn Rami and Christine Ikupu. Ikupu, who is a professional boxer, says she was fortunate to be given the opportunity by OFP to be part of the event.
Somehow me to thank you lol OFP lo kisimi back lo joining team blongol as a professional all accept me.
Also sharing similar sentiments was her fellow boxer Joycelyn Rami, who also thanked OFP.
Before moment I also fight law professional, but now me first marry law when him professional boxing fight.
Managing Director and promoter Marion Milley is encouraging women and girls to come along and watch and support the event.
Our motto for this year is building champions and beating the violence. So missing out Lorgata Mary, Mama, you are joining boxing, you come now, you miss up one time, now walk about one time, because I believe that women can do it. If men can do it, women too can do it, and I believe that we can also produce a champion for women and men together in Papua New Guinea. And Oceania Fight Promotion is behind there and supporting all the professional boxers who can participate in our event.
And that ends Trukai Sports. The weather report is next. Stay with us.
Trukai Sports. True Kai Sports.
This weather update is proudly brought to you by MoneyPlus, with you always.
Weather forecast for the next 24 hours. Southern region, Port Moresby, Daru, Alatau, mostly fine. Kerema, mostly cloudy with some showers and thunderstorm. Popondetta, partly cloudy. In the Momase region, Lae, Medang and Vanimo, partly cloudy with few showers. Wewak, mostly fine. In the New Guinea Islands region, Lorengau, Kavieng, Kokopo and Rabaul, mostly fine. Kimbe and Buka, partly cloudy. In the Highlands region, Mount Hagen, Goroka, Kundiawa and Mendi, cloudy with some rain showers and possible thunderstorm.
The weather update was proudly brought to you by MoneyPlus, with you always.
And that wraps up the news, sports and weather for Tuesday, the 25th of October, 2022. The replay of the Rugby League World Cup match between Tonga and Wales at 7:30 p.m. tonight. Tomorrow, 4:30 a.m., EMTV will telecast live the match between PNG Kumuls and Cook Islands. You can catch all this live stream on our website. From all of us here, pleasant viewing. Bye for now.
This news program was proudly brought to you by Smart Start Breakfast Biscuits and Gold Nuggets.